I finally bought my dream home and invited my family to see it. Not one of them came. Each had an excuse. As I sat alone unpacking boxes, my dad texted, "We need to talk about the house." But my reply left everyone stunned. I'm Justine, 33 years old. After saving for 10 years, I finally purchased my dream home last month. The day I got the keys, I invited my whole family for a housewarming dinner. I spent days preparing guest rooms, cooking their favorite meals, and even hung family photos. But as the evening dragged on, my excitement faded to confusion, then heartbreak. Not one family member arrived. Surrounded by unopened boxes and untouched food, my phone buzzed with Dad's message, "We need to talk about the house." I grew up in a cramped two-bedroom apartment on the east side of town. My parents, Thomas and Linda, worked non-stop to cover the basics. Mom waitressed during the day and cleaned offices at night, while Dad moved between construction and security jobs depending on the season. My younger siblings, Natalie and Adam, shared one room, while I slept on a pull-out couch in the living room until I was 17. Money was always scarce. I remember Mom stretching a pound of ground beef across 3 meals, mixing in beans to make it last. Dad tracked every kilowatt on the electric bill and lectured us if we left a light on. "Electricity costs money we don't have," he'd say, flipping the switch with a sigh heavy with worry. Even in those tough years, there were moments of escape. Once a month, Mom convinced Dad to borrow his brother's car so we could drive through the wealthy neighborhoods. I was mesmerized by the beautiful houses, pressing my face against the glass, choosing my favorites and imagining life inside. "Look at the red door, Mom," I'd point out, staring at a craftsman home with a wide porch and flower baskets. Mom always smiled and agreed. "That one's beautiful, Justine, all that natural light." But Dad's response was always the same. "People like us don't own houses like that. Best not to dream about the impossible." His words stuck with me, not as discouragement, but as motivation. By 15, I convinced a local diner owner to hire me weekends and after school. I saved every dollar, hiding cash in a lockbox under my pull-out bed. When my parents discovered I was working, they asked me to contribute to household bills. I did, but still managed to save half my pay for the future. High school graduation brought unexpected news. One afternoon, my guidance counselor called me to her office. "Justine, have you checked your email today?" she asked. We didn't have internet at home, so I hadn't. She showed me a scholarship notification, a full ride to State University, including housing. I burst into tears. I'd be the first in my family to attend college. Mom hugged me tightly, whispering, "I always knew you were special." Dad nodded, a flicker of pride, quickly replaced by caution. "College is expensive. Books, supplies, living costs. Don't get ahead of yourself." Natalie, 14 then, seemed happy for me, while Adam, only 12, was too young to understand. College tested me more than I imagined. Tuition and housing were covered, but everything else wasn't. I worked at the campus bookstore and waited tables on weekends. Sleep became rare, but I kept my grades up and saved what I could. The harder part wasn't money, but the cultural gap. My classmates talked about European vacations and parents who were lawyers or executives. I shared little about my background, feeling the distance. Back home, calls with my family grew strained. Mom wanted every detail, living through me. Dad asked only about expenses and whether my jobs hurt my studies. Natalie and Adam slowly pulled away, our shared childhood no longer enough to keep us close. Graduation day came after 4 demanding years. I searched the crowd, hoping to see my family. Only Mom came, sitting alone in a dress she had carefully saved for. "Where is everyone?" I asked after the ceremony. She explained Dad had picked up an extra shift, Natalie had a project due, and Adam wasn't feeling well. I swallowed my disappointment. We took photos, just the two of us, holding my diploma. That day set the pattern. My milestones mattered little to most of my family. Their absence became routine. With my marketing degree, I landed an entry-level role at Blake & Associates, a mid-sized firm downtown. The salary wasn't high, but the growth potential was real. I rented a tiny studio near the office, just 400 square feet, with a kitchenette so small I could touch both counters at once. But it was mine, and it let me keep saving. I had a strict financial plan: 50% for essentials, 30% for my future house, and 20% for everything else. I tracked every dollar, watching my savings grow. My colleague Samantha often teased, "You need to live a little. You're only young once." She wasn't wrong, but I stayed focused. My father's words about impossible dreams pushed me forward. Promotions came steadily. By year 2, I was an account manager. By year 4, a senior account manager. Instead of upgrading my lifestyle, I funneled raises into my house fund. I even built a side business managing social media for small companies. What began with a florist client grew into 8 steady accounts, speeding up my savings. But my personal life suffered. Friends stopped inviting me to expensive outings, knowing I'd decline. My apartment stayed sparsely furnished. Vacations never happened. Even holidays were work days for me, helping businesses with seasonal social media. In year 3 at the firm, I met Marcus in the elevator. He worked in the legal office above ours. Coffee dates turned to dinners, then weekends together. He was patient with my schedule and supportive at first. 6 months in, he suggested moving in together to save on rent. We could get a nicer place for less and you'd reach your goal faster. The logic was sound, but I hesitated. I wasn't ready to merge finances. I declined, and Marcus accepted my choice. After 3 years, cracks appeared. He called my saving habits an obsession. Arguments broke out over skipped destination weddings, and my refusal to spend on experiences. During our last fight, he said, "There's more to life than preparing for a future that might never come. You're missing what's happening now." The breakup hurt, but it clarified things. I wasn't willing to compromise my goal, not even for love. The house wasn't just a purchase, it was proof. Proof that people like us could achieve what Dad once called impossible. My family's response to my career success was complicated. Mom was proud, but uneasy during visits. "This neighborhood feels so different," she'd say, glancing nervously at the professionals around. Dad refused to visit altogether. "Downtown's too fancy, too many one-way streets." Adam, now in construction, usually called when he needed money, dismissing my advice on budgeting or training. "Not everyone wants to work themselves to death for some American dream fantasy," he snapped once. Natalie married young and had 2 kids. Our conversations revolved around them, not me. When I mentioned my growing house fund, she quickly changed the subject. 8 years into my career, a client meeting shifted my perspective. A CEO casually mentioned buying her first investment property at 34, calling it the perfect time to build wealth before family obligations. At 32, I realized I could move my timeline up. With savings, excellent credit, and steady income, home ownership was within reach earlier than I thought. That evening, I contacted a mortgage broker. James the broker confirmed I was ready. "You've already done the hardest part," he said, after reviewing my report and down payment. "Most first-time buyers struggle with saving. You're in a strong position." His words validated years of sacrifice. Every declined invitation, every bare apartment. Next came finding a realtor. Through a work connection, I met Kelly, who specialized in first-time buyers. I told her my vision clearly: craftsman or colonial, minimum 3 bedrooms for family visits and a home office in a neighborhood with character within a reasonable commute. "I've imagined this house for 15 years, I explained. "I'll know it when I see it." House hunting was more emotional than I expected. Over 3 months, we toured 47 properties. Some houses came close to my vision, but each had serious flaws: water damage hidden under new paint, outdated electrical systems needing costly repairs, or locations that would add hours to my daily commute. By the 38th property, fatigue set in. Maybe I'm being too selective, I told Kelly after we left a nearly perfect colonial with a failing foundation. Maybe my expectations are too high. The right house is worth the wait, Kelly assured me, especially for someone as patient and deliberate as you. Then came Property 42, driving down a tree-lined street in the historic Oakwood district. I spotted it even before Kelly slowed the car. A craftsman bungalow with a deep front porch, original woodwork, and a bright red door. My heart raced. "This looks promising," Kelly said, noticing my expression. The interior exceeded all expectations. Original hardwood floors throughout, built-in bookshelves flanking a brick fireplace, and a renovated kitchen that balanced modern updates with historic charm. Upstairs, 3 bedrooms with dormer windows created ideal spaces for guests and a home office. Standing in the sunlit master bedroom, light streaming across wide plank floors, I felt an emotion I hadn't expected. "This is it," I whispered, running my hand over the century-old doorframe. "This feels like home." Kelly nodded, recognizing the significance. "The asking price is at the top of your range, but given the location and condition, it sits fair. If you sit serious, we should act quickly. Homes here rarely stay on the market." That night, I barely slept, replaying numbers, imagining my furniture in those rooms. By morning, my decision was final. We submitted an offer at asking price, along with a personal letter explaining why this house was the perfect first home for a first-generation buyer. Competition was intense. 3 offers, 1 above asking. The waiting period was stressful. I buried myself in work, resisting the urge to check my phone every few minutes for updates. 3 days later, Kelly called. My offer had been accepted. The owners, an older couple downsizing to be closer to grandchildren, were touched by my letter. Despite the higher bid, they chose me, wanting their home to be appreciated by someone who valued its character. The loan process, however, brought challenges. My self-employment income from the side business, complicated documentation. The underwriter requested extra verification, delaying closing by 2 weeks. "This is common for self-employed borrowers," James reassured me. "Your finances are solid. It's just paperwork." Those 2 weeks dragged on. Another buyer remained interested, waiting in case my financing fell through. I submitted tax returns, profit and loss statements, and client contracts, creating a full financial portfolio to satisfy the lender. Finally, approval came through. Closing was set for Tuesday. I signed document after document, then received the keys. It felt surreal, the end of a journey that began years ago during those Sunday drives through neighborhoods just like this one. After closing, I asked for a moment alone in the empty house. I walked through each room, letting the reality settle in. In the living room, I sat on the floor and cried. Tears of relief, achievement, and validation. The daughter of renters, who once rationed electricity, now held the keys to her own home. I snapped photos and sent them in a family group text, something I rarely did. "Just closed on my first house. Can set wait for you all to visit. Planning a family dinner in 2 weeks, save the date." The replies came slowly. Mom sent, "Congratulations." Natalie replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Adam didn't respond. Dad finally texted, "Houses like that have high maintenance costs. Hope you budgeted for repairs." His reaction stung but didn't lessen my pride. Watching sunset light spill across my new bedroom walls, I promised myself this house would be a home filled with warmth, regardless of my family's response. The 2 weeks before the dinner passed quickly. I moved in my old apartment furniture, which looked small and inadequate in the larger space. My sofa that once dominated my living room barely filled a corner. My two-person dining table looked lost in the formal dining room. I reminded myself to go step by step. I found a second-hand table that could seat 8, perfect for the dinner I planned. A fresh coat of paint and budget chairs completed it. With essentials in place, I focused on preparing for my family's visit. This wasn't about showing off. It was a chance to reconnect, to bridge the growing distance. The guest room for my parents received extra care. I splurged on a new mattress and quality bedding, mindful of Dad's back issues. Another bedroom was set up for Natalie, her husband Troy, and their children, with an air mattress for the kids. The small third room, eventually my office, was arranged for Adam. For dinner, I shopped for everyone's favorites. Dad's pot roast with carrots and potatoes, Mom's blueberry cobbler, Natalie's Caesar salad, and Adam's favorite buffalo chicken dip. The grocery bill stung, but this dinner mattered. I added personal touches throughout the house. A hallway photo wall displayed decades of memories. Mom and Dad's wedding, Natalie and Adam as toddlers, a rare beach vacation. Recent pictures were absent, a reminder of distance I hope to change. I even prepared welcome baskets, gardening seeds for Mom, a custom house keychain for Dad, coloring books for Natalie's kids, and a local brewery gift card for Adam. A week before, I sent formal invitations with directions, parking info, and a note on how meaningful their presence would be. Early responses were encouraging. Mom asked what she could bring. "Just yourselves," I said. Natalie confirmed. Troy got time off, and they were excited. Adam texted a short but hopeful, "I'll be there." Dad stayed silent, though Mom assured me they'd drive together. Then, 3 days before the dinner, the cancellations began. Natalie called first. "Emma has an ear infection. The doctor says no travel. Troy's taking Jack to see his mom, while I stay with Emma." She promised they'd visit another weekend. Disappointment settled in, but I accepted. Next, Adam texted, "Boss scheduled me Saturday. Need the hours. Sorry, sis." It didn't sound believable. Adam rarely volunteered for extra shifts, but I let it go to avoid conflict. Thursday, Mom called. "Your father's back is acting up badly. He can hardly get out of bed. There's no way he can sit in the car that long." I offered to pick her up, even suggested FaceTiming Dad during dinner. She refused. He wouldn't want me leaving him behind. Better to wait until he's stronger. By Friday, my dinner for 6 had dwindled to 1. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by untouched groceries and a table set with new plates and folded napkins. The house that once felt so full of promise now echoed with emptiness. I tried calling everyone, offering new dates and options, but heard nothing back. Only Mom responded, repeating that Dad's health made it impossible. Saturday arrived bright and warm, but my mood was heavy. The welcome baskets sat untouched in empty rooms. I put away groceries, covered prepared dishes, and eventually gave up, changing into jeans and a t-shirt. I spent the day unpacking, trying to drown out the loneliness with work. By evening, I ordered pizza, lacking the will to cook the special meals. Sitting cross-legged among boxes, I distracted myself with design websites on my tablet. That's when Dad's text came through. "We need to talk about the house. No congratulations. No apology for missing dinner. Just 7 words, carrying more weight than I expected." Dad rarely texted directly, so I called immediately. He answered gruffly. "Dad, I got your text. Is everything okay?" "Your mother Sip's upset," he began. "She Sip's been crying since you sent those pictures." Confused, I asked, "Crying? Why?" "Because none of us are okay with this performance you Sep are putting on." "Performance?" I echoed, stunned. "This fancy house in that high and mighty neighborhood," he said, his tone sharp. Dad dismissed my invitation as if I were pretending to be a hostess from one of Mom's old magazines. "That's not you, Justine. Not the daughter we raised," he said. His words felt like a blow. I leaned back against an unopened box, struggling to take it in. "Dad, I worked years for this house. I saved, worked multiple jobs. This isn't a performance. It's the outcome of dedication." "Hard work," he scoffed. "You call it hard work when you turned your back on us? Stopped coming to Sunday dinners because you were busy with that office job and side hustle? Moved into neighborhoods where your own father doesn't feel welcome?" His voice grew louder with each question, until he was nearly shouting. In the background, Mom urged him to calm down. "I never turned my back on anyone," I protested. "I invited you all here this weekend. Prepared rooms, cooked everyone's favorite meals. Nobody showed because we don't belong in a house like that." He cut in. "Your mother saw those polished floors and fancy kitchen and felt she couldn't even touch anything. Adam said looking at the pictures made him sick, knowing he'll never afford something like that with construction wages. Even Natalie thought you were showing off, making it obvious you've moved on from us." His words hurt more than I expected. "That was never my goal," I said quietly. "I wanted to share this with you, not make anyone feel inadequate." "Well, you failed," he said flatly. "Your mother believes you're embarrassed about where you came from, that this house is your way of escaping us." "That's not true," I whispered, though part of me wondered if choosing a neighborhood so unlike my childhood had been an unconscious rejection. "Is this it?" he pressed. "When was the last time you introduced your work friends to us, or mentioned your family at that fancy office? Do they even know their colleague? Stad's dad works construction and their mom cleans houses." The question struck harder than I wanted to admit. I had separated my work life from my upbringing, not out of shame, I thought, but to be judged on my own terms. "I'm proud of where I came from," I insisted, voice shaking. "Everything I achieved is because of what you and Mom taught me about persistence and work ethic." "Save it," he interrupted. "Actions speak louder, and your actions show you building a life without us. This house proves it." Mom Sep's voice grew louder in the background before he returned, his tone softer but resigned. "Your mother wants me to tell you she loves you. But I need to be honest. This changes things. Keep flaunting your success, making us feel small, and there will be consequences." "Consequences?" I repeated, stunned. "You cut me off for buying a house? For succeeding?" "Call it what you want," he said coldly. "But choices have consequences. Always have." And with that, the call ended. The silence that followed was heavy. The house, once full of promise, suddenly felt oppressive. The guest rooms stood empty, the welcome baskets untouched. Even the furniture seemed to mock me. In the mirror, I saw myself, designer jeans, an $80 shirt, luxuries that clashed with memories of Mom repairing socks rather than replacing them. Had success changed me more than I realized? Had striving for stability created distance? I never intended. Those questions kept me awake all night, replaying years of choices, wondering when ambition became alienation. By dawn, with eyes swollen from tears, clarity finally came. The house wasn't the real issue. Success wasn't the problem. The tension came from long-standing family dynamics and expectations I had both met and defied. Morning light made one truth clear. I couldn't control their reactions, but I could control my response. After coffee, I sat at my laptop and began drafting a message. I rewrote it several times before sending the final version. "Dad, Mom, Natalie, Adam, I've spent the night thinking about our conversation. I love you all deeply. Nothing about my career or this house changes that. You are my foundation. I learned persistence and hard work from you, but loving you doesn't mean diminishing myself. My success isn't a rejection of my past. It's the result of the values you taught me. I won't apologize for achieving goals or pretend I haven't earned them. I won't sell this house or downplay my accomplishments just to maintain peace. This home will always be open to you, but I won't close the door on my dreams. I hope someday you'll see my success as an extension of yours. Pressing send, I braced for the outcome. Mom responded first, her voice thick with tears. I never meant to make you feel bad. I step always been proud. It steps just hard seeing you. Live a life I couldn't provide. You gave me everything that mattered, I told her. Love, strength, values. She admitted Dad's anger came partly from his own sense of failure. Seeing me accomplish what he couldn't stirred complicated feelings. We ended with plans for her to visit alone soon. Natalie texted next, confessing she had lied about Emma's illness. I was jealous and ashamed. We can barely cover rent, and your house made me feel like a failure. I'm sorry. Can we start over? We talked, and I reassured her that her family and marriage were successes beyond measure. Adam stayed quiet for 3 days before texting need time to process. Not ready to talk yet. It was blunt, but honest, and I respected that. Dad's silence lasted a week. Finally, a birthday card arrived with a home improvement gift card. No words, just a small step toward acceptance. In the weeks that followed, sadness mixed with relief. I missed the closeness I once had, but honesty brought a strange sense of freedom. I began making the house truly mine, painting walls, arranging furniture, designing spaces for my needs, not others' expectations. When a colleague asked if my family had seen the house yet, I answered honestly, "We're working through some things. Family dynamics can be tough." She nodded knowingly, sharing her own story. I realized then I wasn't alone in these struggles. I joined a group for first-generation professionals navigating similar challenges. Their stories mirrored mine, showing me how common these tensions are. 3 months after the failed family dinner, I finally hosted a gathering in my home, not for relatives, but for friends and colleagues who had supported my journey. As glasses clinked and laughter filled spaces once marked by silence, I felt the house shift from a symbol of division to one of renewal. 6 months after moving in, it finally felt like home. The living room walls, once bare, now carried a blend of local artwork and family photos. The kitchen became my weekend retreat, a place to try recipes far more ambitious than anything attempted in my old apartment's small corner space. Outside, garden beds that had once been empty now flourished with herbs and flowers, each bloom the result of weekend work that left soil on my hands but contentment in my heart. On a warm Saturday evening, my dining room hosted its first dinner party. 8 guests gathered around the table that had stood unused on my first weekend here, colleagues, neighbors, and friends from my professional group. Wine flowed, conversations sparked, and laughter filled rooms that had once seemed endless in their emptiness. Justine raised her glass toward Diane, my neighbor. Here's to the one who not only restored this old house, but filled it with warmth and welcome. Her words echoed exactly what I had imagined when first walking through the property, owning not just walls but creating a space where connections could thrive. My family's path back into my life was slower, marked by cautious steps and occasional setbacks. Natalie was the first to cross the divide. She visited without her husband and children, at first almost cautiously, as if testing the waters. "This place is beautiful, Justine," she said, brushing her hand across the woodwork. "I can see why you loved it." That first visit led to others, eventually with Troy and the kids. Watching her 5-year-old, Jack, race across the backyard, while Emma arranged stones in the garden, softened old wounds for both of us. "They love it here," Natalie admitted. "Jack asked yesterday if we could live in a house with windows like Aunt Justine's." Mom began her own routine, coffee on Wednesday mornings while Dad attended therapy. At first, She perched stiffly on the sofa's edge. Over time, she relaxed, helping choose curtains and suggesting where family photos should hang. One morning, she handed me a small box from her purse. Inside lay Grandma's china teacup and saucer, an heirloom I'd admired as a child. It belongs here now, with you. The gesture recognized something profound, that despite differences, this home was now part of our shared story. Adam kept the most distance. He replied to texts rarely and avoided visits. Our relationship had always been fragile, shaped by his resentment of my academic achievements since high school. Yet small changes appeared. When he needed help with a resume, he called me directly. During our video call, he glanced at the bookshelves behind me. "The place looks good. You always had an eye for that stuff." From him, this counted as praise. Dad remained the last holdout. He never visited, though Mom said he asked about the house. First came a birthday card with a gift card, then a Christmas card signed only with his name. Subtle gestures, but gestures nonetheless. Healing, however, also came from new places. I joined the neighborhood association and worked on the community garden, planting different kinds of roots. There I learned I wasn't alone. My father didn't speak to me for 2 years after I got my doctorate, shared Maria, a neighbor. He had only an 8th grade education. It took time, but eventually he came around. Sometimes people need space to adjust their view of you. The most important change came through therapy, which I began 4 months after that failed family gathering. Weekly sessions helped me untangle feelings around success, family loyalty, and identity. "Your achievements don't reduce anyone else's worth," my therapist reminded me. "Their discomfort isn't yours to fix by making yourself smaller." That perspective freed me from guilt. I began celebrating openly my work promotion, the porch restoration, without calculating how family might see it. 9 months after moving in, an unexpected text arrived from Dad. "Your mother says the gutters need cleaning before winter. Do you have someone for that?" It wasn't warm, but it acknowledged the house's importance. I replied carefully, "I got quotes but haven't scheduled yet. Any suggestions?" His answer came quickly. "Those companies overcharge. I could look next weekend." My hands shook as I typed acceptance. Mom later revealed he'd been working up to that offer for weeks. The following Saturday, his truck appeared in my driveway. He stepped out in work clothes, nodding like it was any other job, not his first visit to my home. Mom's nervous smile gave away the weight of the moment. "Nice place," Dad said, scanning the exterior. "They don't build them like this anymore." From him, that was high praise. I gave them the tour I had planned. Months earlier, Dad's eyes lingered on the craftsmanship. Mom's fingers traced the countertops she had only seen in photos. Outside, Dad worked on the gutters while I held the ladder, passing tools between us. Following his instructions brought back the rhythm of old times. "You did good, Justine," he said quietly. As we packed up, not "I'm proud of you" or "I'm sorry," but an acknowledgement that carried weight. I accepted it for what it was, a monumental step. That evening, sitting on my porch swing, watching the sunset touch my garden, I reflected on the year. The house that once seemed to deepen family fractures now held the possibility of rebuilding, slowly and carefully. Home, I realized, isn't only about a building or the achievement of owning it. It's about creating a place where you can be yourself while leaving the door open for those who shaped you. The road ahead wouldn't be simple. Some wounds might never fully heal. But in that moment, I felt peace, knowing true success means honoring your journey without apology. Have you ever faced the complicated emotions that come with growing beyond your origins? As this story settles in your mind, remember, it isn't just a story, it's a glimpse of truth, a reflection of hidden struggles many share. Every word becomes a thread, tying light to shadow, spoken to unspoken, personal to universal. Stories like these hold power, not only to reveal, but to connect us in ways we rarely expect. That secret now becomes part of your own narrative. It awakens curiosity, urging you to wonder what stories lie just out of reach, waiting to be discovered. Hold on to that feeling, the sense of wonder and unease, for it binds us all in this shared human experience. If this story moved you, honor the connection. Like this video, subscribe to join others who seek hidden truths, and ring the bell to hear the next voice from the shadows. Here, we don't just tell stories. We carry them, we give voice to what's often left unsaid. And now you're part of that journey. Until the next tale finds you, keep your mind open, your heart steady, and never stop listening for the whispers. Thank you for watching. Stay curious, and take care. Every day, new experiences spark fresh stories online. Stories that connect us through shared struggles and lessons. Each one reminds us we're human, sometimes joyful, sometimes hurting, always learning. If this story spoke to you, share it with friends and leave your thoughts. Your feedback helps us grow and improve. Today was just one glimpse into the many untold experiences that shape lives. Through listening and sharing, we learn more about each other and ourselves. We'll continue bringing stories that inspire reflection and connection. So, if you haven't already, like and follow for more. Your support drives us to create content that informs, uplifts, and connects. Until next time, stay thoughtful and stay curious.